Thank you. And Jennifer Savage was ceding her time to me.
All right, great. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll be as fast as possible. Okay. Hello, Commissioners. Good morning. Mandy Sackett, California Policy Coordinator with Surfrider Foundation. Thank you so much for this ongoing series of sea level rise presentations. I feel that this information is really valuable for us, and I'm sure for you all as well, and it's really great to have a closer look sort of at each region and what's going on. And major props to Nature Conservancy for their work and the really cool VR project in Long Beach. I think that's great and really helpful for the public. So as we wrap up 2019, I just want to take just a moment to reflect on sea level rise planning decisions that you've made this year in regard to shoreline preservation and coastal armoring. So we really commend the Commission for your actions this year. I believe that they've been really boldly defending the Coastal Act. The Commission's guidance on sea level rise has been great and otherwise, really served to protect our coast. Not all the decisions that you made this year were easy, but you chose to safeguard the public trust on many occasions and save our precious beaches for the public. We did disagree on a few projects. Here they are on the slide here. We wish you hadn't approved those 2 houses in the flood zone on Faria Beach and Ventura. And we know that sea level rise was not adequately addressed in the Caltrans Eureka 101 corridor project. We also do not understand your inconsistency in allowing armory of the coastal trail in the Pacific Grove LCP passed earlier this year, especially when you denied armoring of the coastal trail in other situations, including during this year. So on the list of positive outcomes, you prohibited 2 seawalls in San Diego County. You enforced a setback for development on the bluff edge in Laguna Beach. You put some really good conditions and a limited term on a seawall at San Onofre State Beach, and you also prohibited armoring of the coastal trail at Half Moon Bay and in a marine protected area in Gaviota State Beach. You also stood very strong on prohibiting beach encroachments in Newport Beach. With all that and more, we do think this was a historic year for coastal preservation, and that we think that it will be reflected in the annual ACT Coastal Vote Chart. So all that said, we still have much work to do in order to save California's coast from sea level rise. A recent report titled Preparing for Rising Seas was published by the California Legislative Analysts Office this month, and it concluded that coastal communities must increase both the extent and pace of sea level rise preparation efforts if California is to avoid the most severe, costly, and disruptive impacts in the coming decades. A main finding of the report is that local governments are way behind in acting too slowly on planning for sea level rise. The report also offers several suggestions to remedy this, including suggesting that the legislature increase funding to local and state agencies, better facilitate cross-agency efforts, and expand support for collaborative regional efforts. So we all know these actions are critical, and we appreciate seeing them analyzed and highlighted for the legislature. The report also calls out the need for pilot projects and examples of adaptation projects. We strongly agree we need more good adaptation examples to point to, especially projects that avoid hard armoring and preserve our natural coastal processes in order to prove that it works and provide multiple benefits, including habitat and flood protection. We need a clear pathway and funding for those kind of projects, especially for beaches and coasts under public management, such as state parks. State parks should be a leader in progressive sea level rise adaptation, but they need more funding and they need more encouragement to do so. We need more of these examples out there. Otherwise, how can we expect local governments to just put them in the plans? So I really hope we can find a way forward there. Surfrider does have experience and success in this area, a project spearheaded by Surfrider's Paul Jenkins in Ventura. It's one of the few and the most robust managed retreat and dune restoration projects in the state. That project has taken nearly 20 years, and they're still trying to figure out how to fully fund and permit the second phase of the project. Creating and implementing these projects needs to be quicker and easier, and I'm really hoping we can save San Onofre State Beach with a living shoreline project through state funding as a sort of another model project. As I mentioned, you permitted a seawall for the beach earlier this year for just one portion of it, and we're really hoping to avoid armoring for the rest of the beach. It could impact, one of our state's most beloved waves, and the beach and parking is in grave jeopardy. We already know just a few more storms and it could really go. So I will just add quickly in response to Commissioner Brownsee's questions about community sentiments. One quick anecdote. I was at a planning meeting for Capistrano Beach Park earlier, a month or so ago in Dana Point, and the beach is really eroding, but when all the options are explained to the public, including their drawbacks, we found that the number one thing they want to save is their sandy beach, and that's even including when they look at when natural adaptation costs are higher. We did sort of an informal vote, and everybody put stickers on a piece of paper what they wanted to save most. Was it the boardwalk or the sidewalk? Everybody wants the sandy beach. So just putting that out there, and those were homeowners nearby. So. And then just to wrap up, I think the report, the Legislative Analyst Report, it concludes that there is so much at stake for our state, our local and state and national economies. Delaying sea level rise will result in higher opportunity costs. According to the National Business Council, for every $1 we spend in adaptation, we'll save about $6 in disaster relief funds. Sarah, Commissioner Amanzada mentioned that earlier, and so just really want to reinforce that. We have, a lot to do right now. The report makes clear that the state is not adequately supporting local governments or the Coastal Commission in their efforts. So I just really think it would benefit us all to actively support the recommendations in that report. Just 2 seconds. We hope that it won't sit on the shelves, and that the Commission and particularly the Sea Level Rise Committee can go forward and actively support those recommendations with the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sackett.